Chapter 4, An Uncertain Welcome. Now, the United States received an unusual gift on July 4th, 1884. It was a gigantic statue of a woman weighing 225 tons and standing 151 feet high. It was the Statue of Liberty, or as she was known by Liberty Enlightening the World. She was sculpted by the French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi and paid for by contributions from the ordinary French people to celebrate the relationship of the French and the Americans during the American Revolution. This statue became a symbol to those who were arriving in the United States during this period of time. Emma Lazarus wrote a poem about the Statue of Liberty and how she felt about it, called The New Colossus, and the last 5 lines were engraved upon the feet of the statue after Emma died. It says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." For most immigrants that arrived in America, they first landed on Ellis Island. There, the government would receive up to 5,000 people a day. But quickly, that became not enough, and they had to enlarge their facilities to take up to 15,000 immigrants a day. Altogether, 16 million people passed through Ellis Island, and the bulk of them in the first 30 years. This was eventually closed in 1954. Now, can you imagine what it would have been like to have come at that time? Immigrants would receive an examination when they arrived, and if someone in their group was not well, they would be sent back. It became a harrowing experience for many immigrants, and it actually became known as the Island of Tears because of the experiences people had on Ellis Island. One of the other things that they did was, if your name was too complicated or too European sounding, they would give you a more English sounding name when you arrived on Ellis Island. Even from the early days, Americans were in two minds about immigration. Some people favored immigration and thought it was a great opportunity for others to come, just as they had, to their new country. But there were a large group of Americans who thought differently. They feared that these immigrants were coming to the United States to change and to make problems. This feeling of anti-immigrants was called nativism. A nativist is a person who has strong feelings against immigrants and wants to ban further immigration. One of the main objections that nativists had with immigrants was their religion. There were many Catholics from Ireland and Germany. To some Protestants, this sudden flood of Catholics seemed like a threat to American culture. And so people were fighting about the types of immigrants that were being allowed into the country. But as the Civil War approached, this immigration declined on its own. Now, some nativists formed a movement that was somewhat jokingly called the Know Nothing Movement. Members of this movement were for the most part anti-Catholic and anti-immigrant. They got their name because at first it was a secret society, and those involved said they knew nothing about it. So the Know Nothing movement did go on to become a political party known as the American Party, but it did not last for very long. Unfortunately, even after the Civil War, the current of nativism continued to run strong against other types of people. The Chinese and the Japanese faced a lot of discrimination, and in fact, the US Congress actually passed 2 laws in 1870 and 1882 to try and stop Chinese immigration. The one in 1882 was called the Chinese Exclusion Act, and it actually became law, or was law, for more than 60 years in the United States. By the 1890s, nativism had once again flared up in the United States. Immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe were considered too different. They spoke different languages, wore different clothing, had different religions, and people felt that they would ruin America. All of us today know that these new immigrants became as American as the old immigrants. We know the United States has benefited greatly from their contributions, but nativists presented these claims in articles and speeches as though they were proven facts. Worse, many believed them.